Hello, my name's Tanya Taylor Rubenstein, and I'm the Global Story Coach, and I'm sitting here at my home and studio outside of Santa Fe, New Mexico, and I wanted to take a little time to share with you today what is a Global Story Coach, first of all, and I'm also the CEO of the Global School of Story, and share with you a little bit about the new program we're offering, S-School, for those of you who may want to become a professional story coach yourself. So the reason I call myself the Global Story Coach is because I have been working with people for 20 plus years, supporting them, coaching them in bringing forth their stories in many forms. My own background started out as an actor, and when I was 20 years old, which is a long time ago now, I met my mentor, the late Spalding Gray. Many of you may know about Spalding Gray, but for those of you who don't, he was one of the first real contemporary American monologuists. He was really in his own league when he began doing his work in the late 70s. And these aren't stories like sort of old traditional folk tales. His monologue work was very intimate, very personal, stories from his life, stories that touched on the taboo. I remember the first show I saw, I was 20, and it was on Brattle Street in a little theater in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And he was talking about things like his mother's suicide and looking for the perfect spiritual moment in his life. He spoke of his neuroses in a hilarious way. And I knew from that night, when I saw that performance, that I didn't really want to pursue traditional theater so much as I wanted to pursue that kind of work, because without the artifice of theater, the pure heart and soul of the storyteller came through. So fast forward, I moved to Santa Fe, New Mexico back in 1991. And I knew that if I was going to write and perform my own solo shows, I was going to need to learn to write and find my voice. Fortunately, at that time in New Mexico, there was a huge creativity movement happening here. There was slam poetry. Julia Cameron had just come out with The Artist's Way. Natalie Goldberg was teaching from her seminal book, Writing Down the Bones. And so when I moved out here for 4 years, I devoted all my time to writing and learning to write for the stage, and became part of that creativity movement. I did my first solo show, Honeymoon in India, which was a commercial and critical success. It was named in the top 10 shows of the year here in Santa Fe back in 1995. And from the time I did that show, I never looked back. And I have since then done more of my own solo shows, but more importantly, worked with numerous solo performers internationally who have performed their one-person shows at fringe festivals, traditional theaters, storytelling conferences. People have flown in from Australia, Saudi Arabia, Canada, all to my studio here in Santa Fe to work with me to create and claim their voice and claim their power through solo performance, which is an incredible medium. And from that work in solo performance, then over time, through doing my own spiritual work and emotional work, I developed a more transformational and therapeutic monologue process for people dealing with trauma or life-challenging illness. I did a project called the Cancer Monologues, which was featured in Oprah magazine, on NPR, on the CBS Early Show, and it was huge. It became a national project, and people all over the country who'd experienced cancer and their caregivers were writing these 10-minute monologues, getting up on stage and sharing them. And I devoted about 5 years of my life to strictly doing that work, and it expanded from folks with cancer to other populations, people with mental health issues, new mothers for Mothering magazine. I partnered with the National Alliance of mental illness. I work with Veterans for Peace, and also on the sort of personal side, continued to deepen my spiritual process and commitment to awakening, and realize that these stories and the sharing of story, authentic soul-based story, could support people in reframing and releasing trauma and pain. And audiences were having these incredible experiences of intimacy and never wanted to leave the theater. I became known as the director who, the audiences wouldn't leave because they wanted to connect with the performer after the shows. So I went on and did that work. And then from there, my interest in social justice progressed. I was asked by progressive organizations such as the Bioneers to come out and teach a pre-conference workshop with conscious entrepreneurs and visionaries called Storytelling for a New World. And from that led me to working also with people on TED type talks, story and soul-based talks for business and conferences, and led me into the business storytelling world, where long before it was becoming so popular as it is now. But I think what we're recognizing in this new paradigm is what we really yearn for is human heart-to-heart connection in our personal lives, in business. I've known it, storytellers, writers, actors all know this intuitively. But now even the global business market is realizing that old manipulative marketing doesn't work anymore. What works is sharing your story and connecting it to your service or product and vision, and showing how it can help people, help the world. So if you are interested in becoming a professional story coach, we have a program now, an online program for you. For years, people have flown in and paid thousands and thousands of dollars to work with me. I've trained dozens of professional story coaches who are successfully using that process in their own communities. But now I've created an online program that I'm so excited about called S-School. And we know that there are things online that focus on, called B-School, which focuses on just the business angle. But S-School focuses on learning to become a story coach. And so I say S stands for story, stage, and soul, because those are all wonderful elements of becoming a professional story coach. So the first part of S-School will cover the creative, it will be in modules. It will cover the creative modules first. There will be a module on coaching memoir specifically, coaching solo performance specifically, business story coaching specifically, creativity, coaching creativity, because that's the basis of all stories, as well as all marketing, believe it or not. People don't always make that connection, but at its best, sharing the stories comes from a place of a deep well and foundation of creative process, as do many other aspects of life. And so first we're going to cover the creative modules. I'm going to be giving all the curriculum of all the workshops and programs step by step that I've used successfully to create a six-figure business myself over these many years. And in terms of the business aspects, those also will be covered. I know so many of my creative, artistic clients and friends who naturally come to the work with a deep foundation that groks the creative story part. And there's an intuitive aspect, but get really stymied or stuck on, but how do I make a living on this? How do I market? I'm overwhelmed by social media. Well, let me tell you, I was one of those people myself 20 years ago, but I was devoted to figuring it out and have hired some of the best coaches in the world to help me establish my business, I will be sharing all my secrets and their secrets with you. You will get everything from contracts with clients, sample contracts, so you know how to have sales conversations in an organic and heartfelt way. Because we don't want to separate ourselves. We don't want our storytelling selves to be over here and our business selves here. We want them to work fluidly and seamlessly. So the way I approach business and the way I teach business modules is in a very holistic approach that comes from who you are. Because we're really not here to sell. We're here to invite in and present ourselves to people who resonate with us, and they will naturally, and you will naturally attract clients. But you do need to learn some of the skills in terms of how to get yourself out there in front of those people who want your services. So if all of this sounds exciting to you and you're thinking to yourself, I want that, I want to be a professional story coach, and it can be focused in any way that is truest to you. You might want to focus more on memoir, or more on the business storytelling, or more on coaching solo performance. All of the curriculum will be available to everybody who signs up for the S-School program. So if this sounds exciting to you, I invite you to check out the modules very specifically on our website, look at the curriculum, and we are here to answer any questions. And I can only speak from my own self and say that I often feel like the most lucky and blessed human being on earth. I've been able to follow something that I love, that is so meaningful, not only to me personally, but to the new paradigm that's emerging in the world. Stories serve. Stories bring our human connection, our soul-to-soul connection closer, and people are craving this work. And to do it professionally and spend your days with amazing people on creative projects and be able to make a sustainable and lucrative living is just an incredible gift. So if this is all resonating with you, please check out more of our information, be in touch with us. We're happy to answer your questions. Thank you.